Hi everyone, Company Batano here, the internet's busiest music nerd. And it's, you know, it's time for a review from your boy of the new Ibibio Sound Machine album, Ibibio Sound Machine are a musical outfit that I've been following since their days on SOUNDWAY Records, a label that when I heard they signed these guys, I was really happy because they were a contemporary group, some new, fresh blood. SOUNDWAY Records, love them to death, but much of their discography is compilations of older records from long-lost artists from across the world, Panamanian calypso, high life from Ghana, even music from Thailand. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. Now, there are newer groups on there too. Ondatropica is one of them, just reviewed their new record, check that out. Meridian Brothers as well, that's just the tip of the iceberg too. Ibibio Sound Machine was not just an exciting group to me on the label because they were a new group, but also they presented an interesting fusion of West African funk and electro and disco and synth pop. I love their debut single, Let's Dance, but thought the debut album that followed this single was a little lacking. The grooves were there, the performances of frontwoman Ina Williams were certainly enthusiastic and very entertaining. I just wish the album had been a bit more instrumentally dense, wish there was more of a structure to it, a little bit more girth. This new album though, this sophomore album, this is that album. This is the record. The band has jumped from SOUNDWAY Records to Merge Records on this one, and they have released this record. God, it's huge. There's awesome synth textures and sound effects on this thing, plenty of guitar and bass, awesome rhythm section. Hallelujah, this is the album I wanted from these guys. It's my groove dream. The chemistry between the band members, I can't handle it. And the way the live instrumentation melds with the electronics on this thing, it's like a grilled cheese sandwich. All melty and delicious, and it's been years since I've had a grilled cheese. I'm vegan, thank you. As I'm listening to this record, I'm catching elements of Fela Kuti or Tony Allen with Africa 70, or even like William Onibor. His records had all kind of crazy synths all over it. But there's definitely a bit of a Western flavor to the way that they arrange the instrumentation too. Certainly elements of synth pop on this thing, as I said earlier, catching influences from groups such as Talking Heads. I think even LCD Sound System fans would get a lot out of what's presented here. So many of my favorite things in one place, and I'm so happy about it. Of course, this album is loaded with these high-octane dance floor dominators that feature endless rhythms and hip manipulating bass lines, a kaleidoscopic array of synthetic sounds flying at you from every direction, fiery horn sections, slick rhythm guitars, some sweet synth leads that pop in to add a nice, awesome, memorable theme melody to an otherwise just very kind of linear, groovy track. Give me a reason. The opener to this thing is the most fun I've had with 4 minutes of music at the start of a record this year, hands down. You know, Inno does a really great job of coming through with the hooky vocal refrains all over this thing, whether she's singing them in English or in the Ibibio language, which what I read on the band's previous record is what she sings a lot of her lyrics in. And you know, this record isn't just all completely about the grooves, about the instrumentation. You know, there is some storytelling to these tracks, you know, specifically on the song The Chant, where Inno is singing about this girl who, it seems like she's going through a time of stress, and she remembers this phrase from where she comes from, or sort of this phrase that reminds her of her cultural roots that kind of keeps her going, empowers her, and as she kind of makes reference of, you know, oh, she remembers the chant, she has it in her head, then they go into the chant, this and it's really a catchy moment in the track. The song The Pot Is on Fire, also really energetic. This track is filled with so much crazy wooden and metallic clinking, clanking, tinkering percussion. It's so overwhelming. And of course, this is driven by these throbbing, gurgling bass synthesizers that are just top that with some tom fills. God, these songs are so physical! And again, to go back to Innos' vocals, I just love what she's doing on this record. Not only is she performing better when it comes to just straight singing, but a lot of these tracks where the instrumentation is so intense, it's almost like she's kind of playing this role of not just singer, but also band leader. And her energy through her vocals is kind of whipping the band up into a frenzy, getting them to play crazier. I think her vocals have more of a pop appeal this time around, and there are moments where there's almost like an amateurish punkiness to it, especially on the song Joy, where the band essentially throws an instrumental left hook here with this driving, milky bass line, these kind of distant roaring guitars, and some kind of cavernous drums. It sounds like something off of Joy Division's Unknown Pleasures. But then with some of the trippy synthesizers that have been playing throughout the record, Innos' Ibibio language, some bright horns, and a bass solo I was not anticipating, the band effectively kind of seeps in these West African music influences, these electro influences, into a sound that I never would have associated with these genres ever. And there's something about Innos singing, and even the band's playing on the track SUNRAY, that kind of reminds me of Little Dragon, especially a lot of the synthetic, dancey, kind of chill, linear stuff on their last record. Admittedly, I do like it a little better over here because the instrumentation is a bit more dense and lively. I was underwhelmed by so many tracks on that latest Little Dragon record, sadly. The intro on the track The Power of Three features these tight little bass features and these funky horn sections that are totally worthy of like the introduction to a James Brown song. Again, there's so many great high energy moments on this album, but Ibibio Sound Machine did take the care to work some more subtle and low-key tracks in the track listing here. They didn't want this to be a somewhat one-dimensional affair like their debut album was. However, this is where some of the issues on the album turn up for me. The song Cry is kind of a dreamy vocal piece set to a gentle drum machine. Very pleasant, very easy and sweet on the ears, and it's kind of short. It works as an interlude, but it feels kind of odd sandwiched between two of the most intense tracks on the entire record, especially with it being the second to the last song. Doesn't really add a whole lot to the flow in my opinion. On the song One That Lights Up, while I love the groove on this track, and I think this also features one of Innos' best vocal performances, with her trying to go in more of a pop direction a little bit. The band doesn't really escalate the groove or kind of bring the intensity of the performance here anywhere. They just kind of stay at this one level of intensity through the duration of the whole track, so it doesn't really move up, doesn't really move down, so the band is left with no other choice other than to just kind of let the track fizzle out at the very end. I kind of feel the same way about the song Quiet. As pretty as that song is, and as interesting as a moment that song is, as it's really one of the most atmospheric tracks on the entire record, with these very sad, kind of lonely guitar arpeggios, kind of setting the stage for Innos singing. Out of all the Quiet tracks, it's really the song Lullaby that hit me the hardest. The song has this eerily quiet intro, like sensual whispers all over the mix, some chilly synthesizers, a very gentle dance beat. Eventually the rhythms pick up, the instrumentation gets a little more dense, but it still remains very subtle. And when the track is at full volume, it's kind of like I'm listening to some modern contemporary Nigerian band's take on synth pop from the 80s, because the finished project is so glossy and so pretty. It kind of has a sheen on it like a lot of the music from the 80s did, but that rhythm section is so funky. This is the Ibibio Sound Machine album that I wanted. This is the Ibibio Sound Machine album that I knew the band had the potential to make when I first heard them. This is the Ibibio Sound Machine record that fuses together so many exciting genres in a really electrifying and creative and almost mind-blowing way. They tried some new things on here too. Sure, every single one of them didn't go over amazing, but overall I still think this is a really great record. Easily going to be one of my favorites of the year. Feeling a strong 8 on this album. Transition, this Ibibio Sound Machine album, it's a West African banger! Via the UK. They're from the UK technically, but whatever. You guys are the best. What did you think of this record? Did you, love it? Did you hate it? What'd you think? What'd you think? Videos next to my head that I think you should check out. Subscribe to the channel. Official website too. Love you, love you, love you. Catch you in the new video. Catch you in the next video forever.